Today in our first session, we're having quite an informative one from somebody who has been a leader in the higher education space. And we're going to look at aligning institutional vision with holistic student success. And to help us with this is Patrick Awar, who is the founder and president of Ashesi University, a private not-for-profit institution that has quickly gained a reputation for innovation and quality education in Ghana. In 2012, Ashesi was ranked as one of the top 10 most respected companies in Ghana and was the first educational institution to win the award. In the same survey, Patrick was named the fourth most respected CEO in Ghana. Before founding Ashesi, Patrick worked as a program manager for Microsoft, where, among other things, he spearheaded the development of dial-up internet working technologies and gained a reputation for bringing difficult projects to completion. Patrick holds bachelor's degrees in engineering and economics from Swarthmore College, an MBA from the UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business. And he has won many prestigious international awards, including the MacArthur Fellowship, the McNulty Prize, membership of the Order of the Volta, one of Ghana's highest awards given to individuals who exemplify the ideal of service to the country. Chevalier's Dance, Lord Palms Academics, Niger, and the World Innovation Summit for Education Prize. In 2015, Patrick was named one of the world's 50th greatest leaders by Fortune and received the Ellis and Walter A. Haas International Award given by the U.S. Berkeley alumni with distinguished records of service to their countries. Please, let's make welcome to Patrick.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this session. I'm going to start with some brief remarks. I'm doing a presentation on how you go from vision to reality and how you align the various parts of your organization to achieve the success that you need. Next slide, please. So we're talking about vision. All right, so what is vision? I mean, one way to think about vision is to say, well, it's imagination, right? It's just some new idea, some new beginning that you envision for yourself. And here's an example of imagination, right? So we say we want to build a campus and we have an artist, we describe this thing and an artist draws a sketch for us. And you take that idea and you actually make it real. So there's some set of activities that you do between getting from imagination to reality. Another way that one might describe vision is purpose. When we say, what is the vision of your organization, we might be asking, what is the purpose? Why does your organization exist? What is the North Star for you? What is the thing that you're aiming for from today to some later date? For Ashesi, our vision is a new Africa. It is a flourishing Africa that is led by leaders who are making decisions in the best interests of their countries. And what we do to achieve this vision is we're educating the leaders who will make this vision real. And our mission is educating ethical entrepreneurial leaders in Africa, fostering critical thinking, fostering concern for others, and courage, right? Now, let me just point out that if you look at Ashesi's vision statement or mission statement, there's nothing in there that is about our organization. It is about our cause, right? And I'll come back to that later. Our vision is about the North Star we're trying to get to. It's not about us. So you don't see a vision statement that says, we're going to become a university that is blah, blah, blah. We're aiming towards a cause. And that has been very important for us. And I just want to share some of the outcomes of starting with that purpose and where we are now. We have a very high integrity campus, a high performance campus. It is very diverse. We talk about Africa, and Africa is represented on our campus. 1 out of every 10 of our alumni is running a business of their own. In our mission statement, we talk about entrepreneurial leaders. 94% of our graduates get placement within 6 months, and 1 out of every 3 of our graduates is in a senior leadership position within 10 years of graduation. And our campus, our students started this honor system where they basically pledged to hold each other accountable and to hold themselves as individuals accountable to ethical behavior. And this honor system has been operating since 2008. And it's something that comes up for a vote every year. So this is something that students are affirmatively doing ever since they first ratified it. Now, getting from vision to reality requires a lot of things. It requires convening resources, it requires building a team, and it requires, most importantly, building a culture in your organization. So what are some of the things that we've paid attention to? First of all, you have to understand your economic engine. You have to understand your customer. Who is it that pays the bills? What is it what problem are you solving for them? You have to have very deep empathy for the customer. And when we use this word empathy, a lot of times people think of it as this soft, squishy, warm thing. It is actually a very hard business requirement. You have to have deep empathy for your customers in order to be successful. You have to understand who's paying the bills, and you have to understand how to keep your economic engine going. This graph here is data from 1998, where we were trying to build a demand curve for higher education in Ghana and trying to understand what percentage, what proportion of our population could afford what prices. So we knew what the demand curve was, and then we could go build our supply curve of the cost structure for building a certain level of quality, and then from that determine the tuition that we were going to charge. And by the way, if you look at these curves, there's a percentage of the population that can pay nothing at all. There's a percentage of the population that can pay quite a bit. And for us, we needed to sort of have our campus that met the entire curve. So we had to have financial aid systems in place so that we could make sure that we had a diverse population. Fundraising is very important. This is a chart of a capital campaign that we did in 2007. Well, we were planning it in 2007. The board approved it in 2008. And as you know, there was a global economic crisis that started in the middle of 2008. But it was really helpful for us that we had this plan, that we were trying to raise a certain amount of money to get to build the first phase of our campus. And it was very structured. The first few months, we're going to focus on board giving. What were we, as members of the board, going to contribute of our individual resources towards this campaign? Then we were going to go outside the board. So our network, we were going to go to them quietly to raise a certain amount of money. And when we got to about halfway, we were going to then do a sort of a public announcement of what we were trying to raise. And we had a debt instrument in there as part of that capital raise. And we also had a goal that we would begin construction only after we had raised 70% of what we needed to complete the project. And we executed this plan. We were 1 year. We didn't get the campus in 2010, the end of 2010. We got the campus middle of 2011, so we were 6 months out in actual implementation. But it was really useful to have this plan because it guided our fundraising effort. And of course, there's also a whole project of designing a campus and managing a construction project and so on. So it's really important to measure performance with purpose. And for us, when we're measuring our performance and our activities, we first, well, keep in mind why we exist. What is our purpose? What do we do? That's our mission statement, our learning goals, the academic programs that we're running. What are our core values? And how do we ensure that our culture reflects those core values? Now, when you talk about culture, it can become sort of this abstract thing. It can become just a set of words that you're sort of repeating to your team and to your students. But for us, we needed to make sure that these were not just words. So our core values are scholarship, leadership, and citizenship. And we've defined exactly what those words mean for us, right? So scholarship, I'll just summarize, means everybody is a student, everybody is a teacher, right? And everybody is really keen on learning and teaching constantly. Leadership is about helping others to be more successful, helping the organization to be more successful. And it includes, leveraging the talents of others and communicating effectively and setting attainable goals and all of that. And citizenship is about the common good, about ethics, about social responsibility, about collegiality, and all of that. And the way we make sure that this is manifest in our team is to make sure that we measure this as part of our performance management system. So if we're measuring, especially for leaders, right? If we're measuring performance, there's a what you were supposed to do that everybody is clear about. Did you achieve those goals? To what level did you achieve them? Then there's the how you achieved it. That's about these values. And this we measure through a 360-degree review where your supervisor, your peers, your subordinates are telling us how you did along these pillars of scholarship, leadership, and citizenship. As you were delivering your results, were you acting as a student? Were you acting as a teacher? Were you bringing other people along? Were you embracing fresh ideas? What leadership skills did you exhibit? And were you thinking about the common good? Were you thinking about how your work affects other departments and how your work aligns with the vision of the organization? So we basically made it so that this is built into our performance management system. Leadership by example is super important. In Ghana, we have a proverb that says, a crab does not give birth to a bird. If you want your team to behave a certain way, you must exhibit those values yourself. Your senior leadership must exhibit those values themselves. So if you're telling students and faculty and the staff generally to behave a certain way, and your senior leadership team is not behaving that way, you have a problem, and you have to solve that problem. And then I want to end with just a couple slides on sort of this holistic view of how you get to where you need. And what I tell my team at Ashesi is we have to think about our work and individual departments. Each department is a piece of a larger puzzle. And it's very important that those pieces are well aligned with each other. And it's a lot of pieces, right? There's governance, admissions, academics, research, student services, storytelling, fundraising, university administration, student government. There are a lot of moving parts, and each of these parts is super important. If your facilities team is not functioning properly, your classrooms, the infrastructure in the classroom is deficient in some way, it's going to affect the academic program, right? If you don't have student sense of wellness and health, that's going to affect how they do in the classroom. If you're executing poorly, then you don't have a good story to tell. If you're executing really well and your storytelling is not effective, then the world doesn't know what you're doing. Your fundraising is compromised. And so and if your fundraising is compromised, you're not able to, provide scholarships for students who need it. You're not able to deliver the results that you want to do. So it's all super important. Now, all these pieces of the puzzle, all these teams need to be working in alignment. And the way we try to get alignment is reminding everybody about the North Star. So if there's a shared purpose that we're all aiming for, then there will be convergence. Now, these arrows are intentionally different lengths and different sizes and different widths. If a team is generally in the direction of the North Star, not even directly pointed to it, it's okay. So that red line is a team that is sort of self-correcting as it goes towards the North Star. There's some of these that are not pointing exactly, and that's fine. As long as we're aligned and we're self-correcting, we'll eventually get to where we need to be. And so this is how we manage at Ashesi from getting from our vision to the reality of what we're executing. And it is a constant activity. Because the vision that we've set for us is very far out. It's going to take decades to get to. And every year counts. Every day counts. And we just need to be very consistent on how we're aligning to get to that. So those are just some initial thoughts that I wanted to share. And then I'd like to invite the panel up. And then what we'll do is I will ask them a few questions just to get the conversation started. But we want to reserve a lot of time to have Q&A with all of you. Thank you. What I thought I would start with is a very open-ended question. Your organizations all have big visions of what you're going to achieve, what you're trying to do. And if you could just spend a few minutes telling us how you go from that vision to reality for your organization. And perhaps I'll start with you, Priya, and then we'll just come down the stage towards.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for your presentation. So I'm from Botho University and based in Botswana, but we do have multiple campuses across other countries. So I think that increases the complexity of how we align all the activities to our vision. So at Botho University, our vision is to be a university of choice, offering an innovative and digitally enabled education journey with vibrant and dynamic community that drives sustainable development and impact in Africa. And our mission actually builds on that, and it says we will produce employable and entrepreneurial graduates who will drive sustainable economic growth. So from this, basically, it is the employability and entrepreneurial mindset that sits at the center of everything that we do. So our North Star is the Botho graduate profile that we have defined, and it sort of runs, I would say, in the bloodstream of everybody. And what's happened is we have developed a pedagogy model which is called the Botho Learning and Learning and Teaching model, which actually ensures that the teaching, learning, and assessment are student-centered and preparing learners for the global workforce. So from an academic point of view, the Botho graduate profile is kept at the center of what we do. And we also follow what's called a challenge-driven education, which brings real-world problem solving into the classrooms. So students work on projects aligned with the UN SDGs and connecting theory with action, and also building community-rooted impact from day one. So these are from an academic perspective. And of course, as you mentioned, every department or every member of our Botho community has to work towards attaining that North Star. So what we do is we have the Student Affairs Alumni Department, which drives all the activities outside of the classroom. So there are the mental wellness programs, the career services, the entrepreneurship labs, and initiatives like your Destination Success Bootcamp, which sort of operationalize the Botho graduate profile and ensure that activities are continued. And of course, we do track and measure all these through your, like you mentioned, we do have the KPIs that are measured at an institutional level, and these are measured in line with the strategic objectives. So every department has something that is mapped to the strategy and how you work towards increasing the employability and entrepreneurship of the graduate, and of course working with the community as a whole. So I think I'll stop there, Patrick.
Okay, all right, thank you. So multi-campus, multi-country. Let's come to you, and I say, you're in Lagos, but you also have 2 campuses, and you're doing from bachelor's through PhDs. Can you share how you align your vision to reality?
Thanks, Patrick. I think the first thing is that we try and ensure that there's a common understanding amongst the various schools and units of the university of where we're going, of our North Star. Okay, so very clearly we have defined, as everyone else, what our vision, what our mission is, and then we've translated those into our strategic imperatives that cut across 5 pillars. Mm-hmm. Now, the first step was the involvement of everyone in sort of coming up with this strategic imperatives, which form the 5 pillars. And this was across the university. Each year, we break that down in terms of operationalizing it. Each year, we just take these 5 pillars, and then we derive our strategic objectives out of that. So across the uni, across all the schools, across all the various departments and units, the KPIs draw from this. So there must be alignment across board. So we have a 5 strategic pillars: teaching and learning, research and scholarship, community engagement, infrastructure, and the 5 of them. But of those 5, everyone, so when they set their strategic objectives, we're aligned with those 5. So that's the first. Now, we're very big on the students, on the graduates that we turn out. So our mission is to develop competent and committed professionals that will go on to serve with personal initiative, social responsibility, the communities in which they serve, in which they find themselves in, therefore helping to transform Nigerian society at large. Now, it's pretty broad, but very clear about the fact that we want students to leave not only with the knowledge, but also with the skills and the values that we feel that we contribute to ensuring that they do go on to transform society. And therefore, we have defined what our core values are. The 5 of them, we have an acronym which is called CRISP. That's clearly defined, okay? So community, respect, integrity, spirit of service, professionalism. That is understood by everyone across the university. And in all the objectives, we try and ensure that it's just not something that we put up there that people see, but also something that day to day they live. So every month across the uni, regardless of whether you're in this campus, that campus, whatever department you're in, every month, once a month, we have these sessions in which we remind people of our beliefs and values. What are the things that are important to us? So those 5 things are broken down into specific things that uni-wide people are hearing every month. And then, it's just not us talking to people, it's actually an engagement. What are the challenges that you see in terms of implementing this? What are the challenges you see? Who's not living it? Who's living it? That way, we're trying to create a community in which everyone is involved and they're working towards our North Star, as you put it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right,
That's
thank you.
very nice.
And Kayihura, you have a unique situation. I've only heard of this from one other country, France, where there are multiple universities already operating that are merged into one university, which is what the University of Rwanda is now. So you're in one country, multiple campuses, but it's actually more than multiple campuses, multiple
Culture.
formerly independent colleges now together into one university. So how do you, first of all, define the common vision for the university, and how do you make sure that it's sort of rippling through all of these campuses?
Thank you very much. And yeah, you said it all. It's a complex situation, but yes, that's what we are living. Maybe for the general audience to understand, formerly we had we had 7 individual universities, higher learning institutions, public higher learning institutions, and we had some other small 7 colleges. Now, all of those 14 in total were put together, were merged to form the current day University of Rwanda. And all what that means is that you are bringing all, you said it, Patrick, in your presentation about the institutional culture or tradition. So that means that you are bringing all those traditions together to form one, and that is seen in students, but equally in staff, faculty. You are bringing all those assets, but equally liabilities together, and you want to create one vision, one mission, one product, quality product, and that's the complexity you are mentioning about, and that's exactly what we've been doing for the last 12 years. I cannot say we are yet there, but all we did is to first understand our mission, which is more or less like what my colleagues have said. But again, we put the student in the center. We first understand the core mission, the traditional missions of university. We have scholars, education, training, research, and community engagement. And remember, the complexity is even greater because we are, the University of Rwanda is the only public university in Rwanda, and the only comprehensive university in Rwanda. And so whatever the country as Rwanda wants to achieve, they look at us. And so we understood that mission, and then we also committed that we are not only going to be looking at ourselves as trainers for Rwanda, we also have to be trainers for the region and for the global context. And that is also reflected in our vision and mission. And so for us to be able to achieve that, we agreed that we have now to have what we can call, because we agreed that the students are at the center of our operations, we created what we call the 10 graduate attributes. And we made sure that each and every one of us, and as you rightly put in your presentation, we understood how each and every player in the game, every employee, every servant at the public servant at the university is contributing to that common goal of achieving that graduate who is accomplished, who is having all those 10 graduate attributes. I won't go one by one, but mostly the same as you presented, and the being entrepreneurial, being feeling like you have to be a global citizen, and what it requires, you have to be financially, having the financial literacy, entrepreneurial, innovative, and all that. And who is going to train you for that? It is each and every participant in the game, right from, and we always repeat it to each other, that even a cleaner is contributing to the ultimate objective. A cleaner in the room, at the campus, is going to be contributing to that. One working in the kitchen, everyone is contributing to the common goal. And to make that happen, you said it, we are although we are one university, but we are spread across the country. And purposefully, that each college, where it is placed, is supposed to really connect to the other mission and vision, contributing to the changing of that community where it is. And we are running 16 campuses, 7 colleges, and all those are contributing to that common goal. And whether it is research or training or community engagement, and also understand the very critical contribution of students. Whereas they are students and they are supposed to come, traditionally they were supposed to come and get everything from us as a faculty, as management, but we also from day one encourage them to feel or to understand their obligation as well, to contribute to that common goal. And so students are prepared from day one to contributing to the changing of the society where they live and committing to changing the society even after graduation, whether where they live in the region or globally. And they start it through their student organizations that are really supported by our career guidance offices and Office of Dean of Students, and all each contributing to those. They have their associations. Each discipline has its association, and it must report regularly. Like each and every accountability in Rwanda is mandatory to each and every one. So the way we individually as a university faculty, staff and support have to account on what we are doing and evaluate ourselves periodically. And that evaluation is not simply going to stop with us. It is going to be checked through all the levels, even outside the university, because we are the public university. So students also hold themselves accountable, and they report regularly on what their accomplishments are toward the community. And that way we are building them to become responsible citizens as they graduate.
Right. So yesterday, Professor Adebayo's research that he presented to us showed that there are quite a few universities that don't even have dedicated budgets for certain functions of the university, particularly student services and so on. And I'm just wondering a couple of things. One is, how do you ensure that these services that we've talked about are present at each of your sites? And how do you ensure that it's coordinated, right? So, you know, the different functions of the university have to be coordinating in order to deliver the result that we want. So maybe I'll start with you, Enase, from Lagos.
Thank you. Okay, so if we're speaking, we have a couple of services. So we have the student affairs, and then we have the career services, and then we have alumni. Now, depending on the program, because we start from, first of all, the executive programs, and then we have the undergrad, the master's programs, and then the PhD and the doctorate programs across them. The career services focuses on the undergrad programs, and it's very well developed. To speak to your question as to how do we ensure the allocation of resources and that it's pervasive. Now, you remember that I had said that for each of these units or departments within the university, their objectives draw from what it is that's a vision, a mission, and then it's cascaded down based on the strategic pillars. So each year, the budget that they developed, they've said, okay, this is what it is that we're going to do in line with the objectives. The objectives come first, and then we have the budgets, and then it's focused. So now, with the career services, it's also focused predominantly on undergrad students, as well as those that are on the full-time MBA program. Now, within my university, the schools are semi-autonomous. They have a high degree of autonomy. So on the other campus where we have the business school, they have their own career services there. And then on the main campus where we have mainly the undergrad as well as the other academic programs, career services focus on the undergrad in that respect. With alumni services, it's also true. Okay, so we have alumni relations for the different things. So we have the Pan-Atlantic University Alumni Association, and we have the Lagos Business School Alumni Association. Business schools have a high degree of autonomy, so they face a different market, a different public again. Now, across all of those, because we're all drawing from who we want to be, who we want the PAU graduates to be, we're aligned in terms of what are the attributes we seek to see in the students. How do we help them to get there? So whether you're on the main campus or you're on the other campus, across all of those, they were aligned in what we want to do. The alumni services that are offered are different. What you offer to undergrad is different from what you offer to masters and what you offer to people who are already executives in the market. But I guess the common thread that runs through all of that is that I really like that word that you used, the North Star. Because really it's what are we about? What is our mission? What are we about? Who do we want? What are the attributes of the graduates? Who do we want? And every other thing that we do is just in line with that there. So it's I would call it maybe a loose confederation, because
right.
we have, all of this together. We have a mission that binds us together, but each one on its own does what it is that they have to do in line with what we desire to achieve.
Okay. So, Kayihura, I'll ask you the same question. But if you could also spend a bit of time to talk about, are there instances where you have the different parts of your organization that sometimes overlap, and where the overlap, there's conflict or disagreement? How does that get resolved? How do they resolve, so they're not thinking in a siloed way? Or maybe they do. Just describe to us how you manage that.
Thank you. Actually, I said we run the university. There is the central management. We call it executive management. But we also have these 7 colleges that are somewhat semi-autonomous. So the planning starts down there. Like the DVC in charge announces the planning has started, the cycle. Then it starts down there. They plan for what they think they need to accomplish during the financial year, and goes up until when we converge in what we call the Senior Management Council. And then each college is going to be presenting what it has in plan and what budget thinks they would use. And out of that, you remember, we are a public university. There is the amount that is given from the Central Treasury, and that is what now is going to be shared proportionately, and we all agree together and we say these are our priorities for this year. This college is having this and this, and we want to accomplish this, and we agree together in that Senior Management Council. Once agreed, then we apportion the budget accordingly. But we also, in addition to what we get from the Central Treasury, we also have what we have generated through other various means, and then we put it together and we say, this is what we have. Again, how are we going to apportion it to all these colleges? Each planned independently.
So let's dig into that for a minute. So yes. You have funds from the Central Treasury.
Yes.
And I'm sure it's never enough.
Never.
So you have these funds that are not enough.
Yes.
And you have multiple deans and multiple directors that all need a portion of this. And so you're sort of competing for scarce resources.
Yes.
To get things done. How do you manage when there's disagreement about, because Professor Adebayo said yesterday that some places they will just drop the career services and just say, we don't have the money, so career services 0, right? How do you make that call?
Actually, we value all those services equally important, but maybe they may not get as much as they would wish to, but we make sure that we do not make one feeling like it is not necessary and the other is favored, and we make sure that we give the little we can, but we are also fortunate that each and every one of them is well aware that they will never get the sufficient funds that they would wish, and they equally have the duty to mobilize, and then they report, and then we, even students themselves, support career services departments by mobilizing resources. We work with private partners in various areas, and most of those activities, by the way, this is very critical, and we do not accomplish that by our own specific budget that we planned, but how we have outreached and worked with our external partners to support some of those activities. So there are those core ones that we shall always cater for with the meager resources. But there are those others who say, now we have a duty to mobilize external funding for this, and then each and every one of us, whether students or staff, different departments, now get out and reach out and then mobilize resources to accomplish some of those activities that would otherwise not be accomplished if they were only to rely on the small cake that we are all sharing.
Okay, so Priya, we'll come to you, and you're multi-country. So the allocations are also you considering which countries, which geographies are highest priority and so on. Does that play part of it?
Yeah.
And you also, in your opening remarks, you talked about, the student profile, and you talked about the different things you do, student services, health, entrepreneurship labs, and so on. How do you make those allocations by country and then also by function within the country?
Yeah, so as you know, we are a private university, so...
And you're private for-profit?
Private for-profit
Okay.
university. So our allocations are based on the budgets that are given, and so what happens is, even when I'll go from the multi-country, so operationally the country has its own management, but functionally everybody reports under the main head, so that the activities are aligned. It's just to ensure that all the activities are followed. And the strategy is broken, of course, into all the strategic objectives. And what happens is, on a quarterly basis, every faculty and department gets to report on those activities. It's based on activities. And on a quarterly basis, at the financial level, we do look at what is the spend. So even when the budget is allocated, it is allocated as per the strategic objectives. So if we say, okay, student alumni affairs, in terms of entrepreneurship, this is the allocation for each place. And then we look to see whether there has been an overspend or an underspend. So underspend means they haven't done the activities, so they call to order. And overspend, of course, we try and manage because we have only that little kitty to manage from.
But so, Priya, what about, you have these different geographies. Some of them might be more profitable than others,
yes.
Right? So do you have a situation where there's a location that is not very profitable? Do you then cross-subsidize from the more profitable locations to get, let's say student services here needs a bit more money, but they don't have that much profit. Do you take from another place to fund that? And I think some of the vice chancellors here have this issue, or the deans, where maybe your business school is making a lot of money and some other department is not making as much money. How do you do those allocations?
No, we do, especially where we have the newer campuses. When they set up, it does have that time for maturity and gaining those profits. So until that time, it is always subsidized from the other campuses which have got the excess. So whichever has got the excess funds do subsidize, but not fully. So we say that up to a certain level. So probably in a smaller campus, as it gets set up, we might not have the full array of activities, but you have the core activities. So you might not set up the entrepreneurship lab yet till you reach a certain maturity, certain number of students. It also depends on the number of students that have come in, and because as students come in, then of course we do know that the revenue base will be able to support it.
Right.
So that's the way we allocate. And of course the reporting, when it goes up to the board or the academic council, it always reports on each of the campuses as well. So everybody is looking at the strategy in terms of each of the campus to say, is it attaining what has been set as the strategic objective?
Okay, great.
Patrick, may I add something
please.
just to continue? We're a private university, not for profit.
Right.
And obviously, our pockets are not very deep to be able to afford everything that they want to do. But for the three major things for career services for alumni as well as student affairs, what they spend or what they achieve is not solely based on the resources within the university. So the partnerships that we leverage, the sponsorship opportunities that we have for each of those. With alumni, they have a lot of activities. We always say, you know what, everything must be self-sustaining, and in some instances, you must contribute to what it is that will run, you know, the various things that you do. And we leverage that for career services. When we have the career fairs, for instance, we charge for the organizations to pay to participate in the career fair. So, you know, by leveraging the relationships, partnerships, corporate sponsorship, we're able to get more than is allocated to the university to be able to do that. Sometimes what we get is in kind, it's not always in cash.
Yeah.
So for the career sessions, for instance, that are offered to all the students, then we have alumni that volunteer to give that as well. We have corporates that under their volunteer scheme, they come and they do things. So just looking at different ways in which we can achieve the same, but not depending solely on what it is that's internally generated and allocated.
Right. Okay, so that's good. So basically what you're all saying, so whether it's a public university or private nonprofit or private for-profit, you decide what's important, and if the funds are not available, you figure out how to go get those funds to make that important thing happen.
Yes.
And that's a key commitment that management has to make. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand.
Very interesting conversation we're having there, especially in relation to management of resources. My name is Professor Washington Oken. I'm the Vice Chancellor of the Management University of Africa in Kenya and a member of Education Collaborative. As you're doing the presentation, particularly my friend, the VC, Professor Kaira, from the University of Rwanda, you're running a massive, institution, indeed spread countrywide, and you mentioned that you're getting your funding from the central, treasury, and I want to compare that to a similar situation in our country, where our public universities also get their funding from the national treasury, but that funding is never enough. It's never enough. It's always in deficit at the end of the year. We're running something like billions of shillings, which were budgeted for, but have not been, dispersed to the various, universities for their use. And they always end up in arrears. My question is, how do you deal with such a situation? And what kind of, if you do at all, do you have fundraising strategies that you use to kind of plug that deficit from the funding that you get from the central treasury? Thank you.
It's a question for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the question. Actually, that's a puzzle for each and every Vice Chancellor, I believe, especially those for the public universities. Yes, as you rightly said, I may not necessarily give what percentage of funding we get compared to what we would wish to have, but it is generally accepted that we always get less, far less than what we would wish to have each year. But again, and because of that, we also, let me start with positive. Even though we get that limited funding, but maybe different from private universities, we always get that funding which is mainly operational. But when it comes to projects, like construction of infrastructure, classrooms, hostels and so forth, we are again supported by the same government without necessarily capturing it in our ordinary budget. Or if it is been given when small, later on when we convince them about the need and so forth, then they can always find a way of taking loans. The government support us by taking loans for us to be supported in developing such infrastructure and so forth. So that's also another. But even then, the deficit that remains, we are always encouraged. We are a big university. We have partners. We have that we draw from our projects, research projects, grants that we get, so many of them, and big ones. There is the overheads we get, we accumulate from that. Even those grants, some of them are addressing some of the activities that would otherwise be budgeted for in the ordinary budget. But we also have partners, whether local or foreign, who take up those other, like we earlier said, who take up some of those activities that would otherwise miss out to get funding from central government. Case in point is our great partner now, who is also partner with this, the MasterCard Foundation, which is also supporting us in most of, some of the areas that would otherwise require funding, which is coming from the central government. We also have other partners that have been with us for quite some time, especially supplementing on research and capacity building, like the CEDA, which has been there, support some of the areas. We also have foundations like BK. BK is a Bank of Kigali. Like we have now been embarking on creating innovation hubs on each and every campus, so many as you had. And now that partner of ours, Bank of Kigali, Bank of Kigali Foundation is coming in to bridge that gap. That would directly be responded to because this an activity that we had committed to would get the funding seek funding from central government, but it is not enough that we would wish to get. Then the BK Foundation comes in to bridge that gap and many others of the kind.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll go to this next question. Go ahead.
My name is Nelson Iyumba. I'm from Coventry University. Thank Patrick and also thanks for the panelists for this very important discussion. My take is that for an institution to succeed, I think the alignment you mentioned about the going towards the North Star is probably the key. And those arrows you showed of different shapes and sizes probably they present the different stakeholders in the university. Students, staff, academic, admin. So my question is to each of the leaders and including yourself, what do you do in practical terms as a leader to achieve that alignment? Yesterday we had a very good example of the Cape Coast University where the students actually are mobilized to raise funds to put up a building. It's not possible in all the institutions. So there must be some ingredients in the leadership or something that the leaders does in practical terms for the institution to achieve that alignment towards the North Star. So I would like to hear from the panelists, what is it in practical terms that you do to achieve that alignment towards the North Star? Thank you.
If I may come in.
Go ahead.
Quickly to say that when we draft the strategy, when we relook at the strategy at the end of 5 years, it's never done top down. I think the thing is that we do involve every stakeholder, students, student reps, and also the staff from all the departments into the formulation of the strategy going forward. So it indirectly gets a buy-in into that strategy, and I think the actions then build on it, and then whatever comes out, whenever the leadership comes out with any information or any report, it's always said that it is with the input, and there's always ownership, and we report on what has come to us as a report in from the team members, and I think that shows that appreciation of work that they do.
Right.
Okay, may I add something?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. In addition to that, I think that's very important. It's something we also do as well. It's to foster an understanding of the why. Why? What is your why? Is a question I ask all the time. What is it that drives us? What is it that why should we do the things that we're doing? Now, if that understanding, you can gain that, especially from your top leadership, because it's true, we come up with a strategic plan, but apart from the buy-in, if people don't know where you're going, they won't follow you. So we need to communicate, why are we going? Why is this important to us? Why are we going where we're going? That way, if that is understood across all levels, then they will follow you. You will get better traction in trying to do the things that are important to us. So for me, that's the key ingredient.
Priya, you talked about stakeholders. Students obviously an important stakeholder. There are other ones like companies that hire students, etc. What systems do you have in place for getting feedback loops from your various stakeholders? And this is for all of you, whoever wants to take the question.
I can take it. We take a multifaceted approach to getting feedback from the stakeholders, the key stakeholder group being the students. There are various stakeholder groups, so we map our stakeholders. But from the students, we take a multifaceted approach to doing it, both on the courses, on the services that we offer, whether it's career services or student affairs, and we do it systematically. So every semester we get the feedback on the content of what it is that we're doing, similar to what every other person does. And then for the various services that the student affairs offers, then we also send out questionnaires, formal feedback. But apart from the formal feedback, we also rely a lot on the informal feedback. Okay, that comes from representations, from instance, the Student Council. And then lately, for each of the schools, the deans are now going to the schools and having town hall meetings with various groups of students to be able to find out what are their concerns, how aligned are we with what we say we would do, get all that feedback. But what is more important, sometimes we find that we may have all this in place, the students do not respond, they don't participate there. And I think we came to the conclusion that when that happens, sometimes it suggests a lack of trust. They don't feel that if they respond, you will do anything about it. So what was missing was in we call it a loop, but in, closing the loop, coming back to say, you had this concerns, this is how we've addressed it. So most times, we will take it. Maybe we're working or doing something, but we don't come back, and that sort of created some apathy. So that multifaceted approach, getting from formal as well as informal, but then also going back to reports on what we have done or why we couldn't achieve what we've done. I think that helps to build the trust.
All right, great. And I heard your mic is on now.
It appears the question has been asked indirectly, but just to quickly touch on something. And this goes to Vice Chancellor Pan Atlantic University. You spoke about your strategic pillars relating to your objectives, your tasks, and obviously the responsibilities, potential constraints, and so on and so forth. Now, what's the level of frequency of monitoring and evaluation? You may have touched on it, but do you intentionally pull together the various teams that are being tasked in terms of the responsibilities of the units quarterly, or you meet annually to be able to assess what the pillars said and what we're able to achieve within that particular year?
Thank you. So we do it twice a year. On the yearly objectives that we set, each school determines how they manage all of those. But as a body, at the University Management Council, twice a year, systematically, we look at the attainment of objectives. We also, twice a year, look at the progress on our strategic plan, the things that we're doing. So yes, it's well-defined, well-known, and then that way we know whether we need to tweak something, do something, change something. But we do it formally twice a year.
My name is Dr. Edem Kojo Honu from Ho Technical Universities. Many of the public universities have the key leadership positions of these universities. Vice chancellors and other key management officers have fixed term limits. And though these fixed term limits are usually for accountability and change of leadership positions, it also raises questions about the attainment of strategic long-term visions of these universities. My question is, in this current, today's educational landscape, what is the extent of or to what extent does this term limit disrupt long-term vision and transformational agendas of public universities? And then whether these term limits are also fit for purpose in this current educational landscape that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. I think in our law now is we have a 5-year term, renewable once, and that makes it 10. But also, the renewability of that term depends on how you performed. And I do not think that that would be in any way a hindrance to the progress of the institution, because as my colleagues said earlier, when you make your vision and mission clear to everyone, and then you set goals in setting your strategy, that strategy is not just limited, and I'm speaking from the Rwandan perspective, it's not just for you as an individual, it is supposed to be carried on. It's the institutional strategy. Whether you accomplish it within your term limits or not, even the one who succeeds will carry it forward, because that has been the approved strategy, approved working plans for the institution, not just for you as a vice chancellor. So all of us, even myself, when I came in, I just carried on the strategic objectives that had been set and the mission carried forward. And then I make sure that I'm clarifying, I'm making it clear to all others. Whether the term is ending or still continuing, it doesn't stop in any way the progress of, the development of the university as it had been planned. And the other one has an obligation not just to dismantle whatever he or she found in place, but rather to build on it. Otherwise, it would be chaotic for each and every office bearer to come and change everything to zero. You see what happens in not even universities elsewhere.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chinwe P. Sigiri. I'm representing 2 countries here, Cavendish University and Uganda, and Mountaintop University, Nigeria. Actually, I have a concern, and thank God you have vice chancellors in our midst here. And I've had this experience in these 2 different countries regarding regulatory bodies and trying to comply with the regulatory bodies, and as well as trying to the curriculum and the industrial trend. And I keep wondering, who are the members of these regulatory bodies? And we have vice chancellors who should make up, and I know they have forum. Is it not wise or good enough for these vice chancellors to come up with maybe a policy on how we can address this challenge of trying to catch up with the curriculum, and as well as address the challenges in the industry? That's just my concern. Thank you.
So if I understand your question correctly, you're saying that we have big issues with the regulatory bodies, that actually the people in those regulatory bodies are former vice chancellors and professors of our universities. So the university should be taking an active role in getting those who will end up in the regulatory bodies to be more reasonable.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, over to you. I guess it's just a request for an opinion on this. Okay, so who wants to take that?
Maybe because I did not comment anything on the regulatory functioning here in Rwanda, I may take that. I think, yes, it can be another form of electing who occupies that position, but I think to guard and to leave it the independence required, it is not good for us to be electing. Otherwise, there will be a fight. And this regulatory office department is supposed to feel like it is independent from any of the institutions, independent from any of the vice chancellors, and not working at the mercy of the vice chancellors. So, guarding the independence, to me, and I think in Rwanda, for the University of Rwanda, would not have any particular issues with the regulatory body, because we discuss, and what we do not agree, we say it clearly, and they will also evaluate and see that we are not. But also they support us. It's like they check us whether, for example, in the curriculum, whether when we develop a curriculum and it is not supported enough, for example, we do not have enough resources, human or financial, technical, they always highlight that and say, we are not accrediting this. Go back and ensure that you have all this in place. Sometimes we are making mistakes, and they are there also as a regulatory body to keep us within the limits. And I do not find any problem with that, and I wouldn't mind having them separate and not at all in any way influenced by us as vice chancellors. Yes, we know they will be picking one to be from former vice chancellor or a professor of a university, but let that still be as it is, than us being the ones in control. The institutions, higher learning institutions, be the ones in control of these regulatory bodies.
So Priya, I can tell that you have an opinion on this.
I don't have an opinion. I don't think I want to. No, but I do think that, like he said, our regulatory body doesn't have vice chancellors on that. It does consist of stakeholders, which are I mean, completely independent, people from community, people from interested stakeholders. So probably, and the thinking, and sometimes it is political appointments. We don't know what the politics
But you made
behind.
reference to saying that they would say, this is how you must teach your accounting course.
Yes. Yeah.
Who is doing that?
That's the qualification authority, right? It's
Okay.
not how you should teach. These are the modules that have to be there, because that's the one qualification that's registered on your qualification framework.
Okay.
So you can have a Bachelor of Accounting, I can have a Bachelor of Accounting. Even if the modules, if yours is the one that gets registered on the qualification framework, me as an institution will have to follow what you put up on as the modules.
Yes.
I'm only allowed that 25% variation. So that's where the difference
All right.
comes in. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we're now officially out of time. So I'd like to thank panelists for a very engaging conversation. And it's really refreshing to hear everyone talk about, having a North Star or a vision that's driving you, and understanding that culture is important, funding is important, and feedback from the various stakeholders is important. And that's what it takes to make all of this go from vision to reality. Thank you all.
Thank you.